Hey guys, Cal here with a new video on Marvel's Spider-Man 2. This is part 2 of the game's most burning questions answered, so if you haven't watched part 1 yet, do check out that video first. I put the link in the description. Be sure to stick to the end of this video cause who knows, I may just have the answer to your questions. As I mentioned in my previous video, I will only be covering questions related to the sequel's narrative by talking about key plot points or references from the past two Insomniac games of Spider-Man PS4 and Spider-Man Miles Morales, as well as other comic book inspirations, and I will, in no capacity, talk about any leak plot details or any leaks surfing around the net regarding the sequel, so do not worry about spoilers. If you're excited to learn more about new details of Spider-Man 2, then definitely make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to be updated on any important Spider-Man 2 news or content. I think every Spidey fan has had this question at least once in their head when it comes to Venom. Will Eddie Brock take on the symbiote? This is one question where I can give you a definite answer coming from the biggest source possible. Brock won't become Venom even if he eventually bonds with the symbiote. During Summer Games Fest of 2023, Insomniac's creative director confirmed that Eddie Brock is not Spider-Man 2's Venom.
It is not Eddie Brock.
Okay.
It is not Eddie Brock.
Okay.
Our goal was to tell an original story, something
Yes.
you haven't seen in the comics or the movies yet. Obviously,
Wow.
we love Venom for a reason.
Yeah.
All those things you love about the character are going to be there, but how the story plays out, who is Venom, you have to play the game to see how it goes.
Of course, you've seen developers attempt to debate semantics of similar issues in the past. Fans were informed that the title antagonist of Arkham Knight will not be Red Hood, a former Robin Jason Todd, but rather a unique character. In the end though, the Knight was indeed Jason Todd, which people saw coming before the journey even began. It's difficult to say, and it's more likely that the symbiote will take on someone other than Harry, which makes Eddie Brock a good candidate for it. What's more, Spider-Man PS4 has had an Easter egg in the form of his name being in a good luck card that you can find in one of Peter's collectible backpacks.
The good luck card from when I left the Daily Bugle to go into research. Some really great people there.
Now, Insomniac could still all in all be lying about Eddie being Venom with the way Rocksteady handled Arkham Knight, and it's not impossible that Brian is doing the same thing with Eddie Brock here, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Where's Black Cat? I'm sure most of you watching this video are big fans of Spider-Man Web of Shadows, and most if not all of you have been dying at the opportunity to interact with Black Cat while Peter is under the influence of the Venom symbiote. If you thought those interactions were pure gold in Web of Shadows, I can't wait to see what Insomniac has in store for us when it comes to these two's dynamic in the game, especially after the way she was introduced and the way they left things. For those of you who don't remember, Spider-Man PS4 did introduce Black Cat, but she didn't have much to do with the game's main plot. The only role she served was a voiceover in a number of photography assignments in her own side missions. She was finally given the spotlight in the City That Never Sleeps DLC, where she was helping and deceiving Spider-Man or Peter whenever it suited her needs before finally providing him with information needed to take down the newly upgraded Hammerhead. She was also mentioned in Spider-Man Miles Morales by Simon Krieger.
Black Cat's gone straight-ish.
And being inactive, meaning she's completely fine, but it's still unknown as to where she is at the moment. So there's a huge possibility of her showing up in Marvel's Spider-Man 2 to cause trouble for Peter yet again. But if Web of Shadows is any indication, we all know what fans are really hoping for here. You know, just thinking out loud. Is Morgan Michaels Morbius? You'd be forgiven if you did not think to tie this character to a classic comic book villain, as the only time this character appeared most prominently was in the 90s Spider-Man animated series, or that god-awful Morbius movie too, but we don't talk about that. Anyway, if you remember, Dr. Morgan Michaels was one of the primary characters in the second half of Marvel's Spider-Man PS4. He was ordered with always carrying the Devil's Breath virus with him, which was handcuffed to a steel briefcase. Michaels helped Spider-Man after he was injured by Otto Octavius and helped turn the cure for Devil's Breath into a vaccine to save everyone in New York. So you may be asking, Cal, what makes you connect Morgan Michaels to Morbius? Well, in the comic book pages, Morbius, the living vampire, went by Dr. Michael Morbius, but before his transformation, he used another alias, which, you guessed it, is Dr. Morgan Michaels. At the moment, we have no indication whether this was more than just an Easter egg in the game, but there is a possibility that he could make an appearance, which I will cover more prominently in the next question. Are there any other villains on the way? Now, if you notice, most of the Spider-Man stories involve people who experiment with DNA, and you can definitely say Peter too got his powers through modified DNA via spider bite, though that wasn't intentional. We've seen footage of the lizard formerly known as Dr. Connors the most in the game's promotional materials, so we know one such individual who would definitely make an appearance in the game. However, he is potentially not the only one. In the comics, Dr. Michael Morbius turned into a vampire to cure his blood disease, and we could see that happen here in the game as well. But as you know, Insomniac loves to put their own twist on Spider-Man lore, so the process of him becoming Morbius may be a bit different in the game, but the end result would still be the same. If we talk about another path which takes us to villains related to other villains that could make an appearance, well, Wilson Fisk had a son named Richard who goes by the name Rose. Or if we talk about Spider-Man's very first adversary, the Chameleon, with the skill to disguise himself as anyone, and what's more, he was referenced by Peter himself in Spider-Man PS4 during a side mission when he was tracking someone impersonating as him.
Could be the Chameleon again. I've got to pick up his trail.
And if that didn't convince you, well, he is also the half-brother of Kraven the Hunter, who, as we know, will play a major role in Spider-Man 2, so chances are his half-brother is not that far behind. What's more, there is a comic book set between the events of Spider-Man Miles Morales and the upcoming Marvel Spider-Man 2 that featured villains such as the Hood, Tarantula, and there are brief mentions of the Tinkerer as well as, quote-unquote, the Foreigner. Since those villains were already featured in that comic, they could make a comeback in the game as well, and it'd be a nice way to tie both sources of comic book media, which I've already talked about in one of my previous videos where I've given an in-depth explanation of everything that happens in the comic. Or if you want to know details about the appearance of other potential villains, you can check out another video right here. Both links are in the description of this video. I'm going off topic here. Now that we've covered possible new villains, many of you may be asking, Cal, that's all well and good, but I'm more concerned with returning villains from the previous two Spider-Man games, so what about them? And for that, let's move on to the next question. Which villains are returning? Now, if you recall, no villain actually died in Spider-Man PS4, so any one or more of them can return. We already know Martin Lee, aka Mr. Negative, will have some role in the game, as we saw Miles interacting with him in the story trailer. What's more, he's sporting a new look, wearing a prison uniform, sporting long hair and a beard, which tells me prison life hasn't exactly been kind to him. There's also Wilson Fisk, who is equally as good as getting out of prison as he is getting put in there, and then there's the matter of Wraith, who you may have already been introduced to, even if you haven't put it together. The City That Never Sleeps DLC dealt primarily with the rise of Hammerhead and other characters like Black Cat, Silver Sable, and Mary Jane, who got caught up in it. But it also followed Captain Yuri Watanabe's transformation from a law-abiding officer into a deadly anti-hero thirsting for vengeance. The DLC heavily hinted at the possibility of her becoming Wraith, a vigilante who uses technology amassed from a variety of different apprehended villains. In fact, you get a small glimpse of what her costume will look like in the story trailer, which all but confirms her presence. Now, she's not technically a villain, but her tech will give her abilities, and it's probably a safe bet that she definitely won't be using it to save people. Finally, there is also the return of J. Jonah Jameson, who has moved on to greener pastures before the start of this game, as shown in the prequel comic. Granted, Jameson isn't technically a villain, but it's always fun to listen to his ramblings on his podcast while playing the game, so if that makes a comeback in the sequel, I am all for it. Last but not least, where are other heroes in the Insomniac Spider-Man universe? This one is a bit difficult to answer, but I'll try my best. Marvel's Spider-Man was a gold mine when it came to Easter eggs. If you wanted to, you could jump off Avengers Tower, swing by the Sanctum Sanctorum, or take pictures of Josie's bar or the Wakandan Embassy. But the only superpowered good guys in Insomniac's Spider-Man universe were Miles Morales and Black Cat. Although there were references to other Marvel characters, they were just used as a reminder that these characters do exist in this universe. Talking a little bit about Sony here, their deal with Marvel only permits them from utilizing Spider-Man and Spider-Man related characters. However, Marvel still owns all the rights to their other comic book characters, which means Sony simply can't include Doctor Strange or Black Panther just to suit their narrative. They need to have a word with Sony for that. But also keep in mind, Insomniac is actively working on a Wolverine game, which was announced alongside Spider-Man 2, which provides a platform for Logan or other X-Men characters to appear. So if there is an interaction between these two amazing characters, please make sure to. For those of you wondering if there are any other characters, well, the game's already jam-packed with Marvel characters like Peter, Miles, Mary Jane, Mr. Negative, Venom, Kraven, the Lizard, and many more, which already feels way too much for any one game to flesh out, so don't hold your breath. But who knows? He may just be in for a surprise. And that is it for this video, guys. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you who watched both videos in this series. I spent a lot of time working on both these videos, and I really appreciate you taking the time to watch them. If you have any topics or questions that you think warrants me in making a video on it, make sure to write your picks or your overall thoughts in the comment section, and make sure to like the video, share, and subscribe to the channel. Take care and goodbye.